Hi guys, I have a slightly better studio situation, at least for my back today, but it still looks funny. So bear with me until I get through this move and figure out how we're going to do this. I was thinking today, actually, I came across a memory on Facebook. It was like a 6-year-old memory. It's about the Mueller Report. Remember how we all thought then that we got him now, we got him now. And I'm going to read this. This is a direct excerpt from the Mueller Report, and I just lost it here. But anyway, at that time, remember, I did the project America Reads the Mueller Report. I got celebrity friends to read direct excerpts, flew out to LA, raised the money to produce it, and air it on 100 plus different local stations around the country and key battleground states. Because our audience were at that time, because remember, this was 2019, it was people who maybe voted for Trump, but really didn't know everything about him. And they weren't getting accurate news, and they didn't know that Bill Barr had lied to them. They only watched Fox, but they weren't part of the cult. Older, middle-aged, white people in key states like Wisconsin and whatnot. Again, they didn't know what they didn't know. So we wanted to get them accurate information, and they watched their local programming. So we bought these half-hour time slots bracketing things like local sports or Wendy Williams or the early morning farm report. Remember, we were targeting farmers just to make sure that they knew the truth. And so here's something directly from the Mueller Report. This is volume 2, page 158. Of course, there were different versions of this as they, depending how they printed it out. The president attempted to remove the special counsel he sought to have Attorney General Sessions unrecuse himself and limit the investigation. He sought to prevent public disclosure of information about the June 9th, 2016 meeting between Russians and campaign officials. And he used public forums to attack potential witnesses who might offer adverse information and to praise witnesses who declined to cooperate with the government. That seems so quaint now when we talk about Trump, right? At that time, Democrats whiffed. And I've said this before because I think we need to learn lessons from past mistakes. Nancy Pelosi blinked. Now, I'm going to praise Nancy Pelosi for a lot of things because I think she, in so many ways, I mean, she's a historical figure, great for women, was a good speaker overall, but this was a very, very big blunder on her part, just like Merrick Garland was a huge blunder on the part of Joe Biden. But at that point in time, Democrats blinked. I think that they were still thinking that an American president couldn't do these things, but they forgot that we're talking about Donald Trump. And an American president wouldn't have struck justice that many times. I mean, Richard Nixon was an angel compared to Trump. So they were in denial about who and what they were dealing with and the danger of Putin and how far things had already gone. And some of them knew, but they were still in denial. Remember that infamous interview and the stricken look on the faces of the late Dianne Feinstein and what's his name from Iowa? Yeah, Chuck Grassley. They came out of a classified briefing about just everything that Russia had done to us. So they knew. But people Democrats did not have the political will or the courage to do it back then. Trump should have been impeached right then and there. And saying that he would not have been convicted in the Senate because it would take a 2/3 of the vote, I think is short-sighted and wrong. At that early stage, remember, it wasn't full of MAGA Republicans at that time. There was people, Republican senators, who had to kind of hold their nose and back him at that early stage. I think at that early stage, they would have been thrilled to have an excuse to get rid of him, to shed him, to unburden themselves and the party and the country of Trump. But Democrats in the House decided not to do it. Nancy Pelosi said he's not worth it. Yes, he was worth it. He was a president. He's dangerous. He's a traitor. He's psychotic. He's a psychopath. And he needed to be removed. And then she said, well, let the voters take care of it. Well, the voters did take care of it. We thought we did. We defeated him, but it didn't matter. So trying to downplay what he was and is a failed strategy. And it really just means you're too chicken to take him on and to do the job. So Democrats didn't act. Now, Robert Mueller said he was following the OLC memo that says you can't indict a sitting president, but he made it very clear that the minute Trump left office and was no longer president, he could be indicted for those 10 counts of obstruction of justice in the Mueller report alone. Now, eventually, Trump was impeached for other things, but it was kind of too late. By that time, he had gained strength. He had snowballed. And he knew what he could get away with. But as soon as Nancy Pelosi blinked, Trump and Putin knew that they had a clear path ahead of them. They knew how to do this. I don't think they expected it to happen that soon and that easily, but it did. It did. So, off they went. He knew at that point. And also, Republicans who might have hoped that Democrats would impeach so that they could, kind of go along with it, I think they were disappointed. And so then they really fell in line behind Trump, because before that, not really. They could have been swayed given the right reasons, and impeachment was a pretty good reason. But Democrats failed. And I think you have to be honest about that. And when you say, well, eventually when they impeached him, then the Senate, wouldn't convict. Well, of course not. That by that time, Trump had gained too much strength, had gotten away with too much. His MAGA cult had grown, and they'd grown violent. So January 6th, again, we had all these Republicans stepping up saying, because they thought, okay, he lost, now he's got to be, they didn't want this. So they wanted Trump to be indicted and convicted. And when that wasn't happening right away, and Merrick Garland was doing that slow, we'll start at the bottom, the rank and file folks who stormed our Capitol, that allowed Trump to gain strength. It gave him time. It gave him ammunition. And so Republicans in Congress, in the House and Senate, had to back away. They were actually willing at that time to back Merrick Garland if he was going to take immediate, strong and decisive action against Trump. When Merrick Garland didn't do that, Republicans again had to fall in line, retract statements, and start supporting Trump again. It's important that we be honest with ourselves about where we were weak in the past, because Democrats have played a role in this creature. We didn't elect him, we didn't anything like that, but there's certain functions that Congress is supposed to perform that they simply didn't. They lacked the will. And Vladimir Putin has been studying this country for a long time. And we talk a big game about freedom and democracy, and we're the leaders of the free world and that sort of thing, which has largely been true. The problem is that when we were tested, we didn't do anything about it. We didn't protect our country. We didn't protect our Constitution. We didn't protect our democracy. We let things slide. You could say the same thing for Hillary Clinton in 2016. She knew she won the election. She, was pretty clear that Putin had cheated for Trump, but she didn't do anything about it. And you could make that same argument about Kamala Harris and her team and Democrats. So when you pick and choose which battles you're going to, I understand, choose your battles, choose your fights, because if you lose, it could, it could be bad. It's kind of bad anyway. I'm kind of the mind that do the right thing. Just do the right thing. And if you fight hard enough and you're in the right, and you still have to have a smart strategy, but having a strategy to back away from the fight that you need to have, your only chance at winning, I don't know. That sounds to me like denialism, that we want to deny that this horrible, horrible thing has happened to us. And what happens when you deny it? It gets worse. It builds the foundation for bigger, badder, worse, more horrible things to happen to us. When you fail to cut out the cancer, when you fail to cut out the tumor, it grows and it kills you. So I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I do think we need to be honest about it. So that said, Congressman Al Green of Texas he's filed articles of impeachment. He wants to impeach Trump. Good for him. Good for him. And our friend John Bonifaz of Free Speech for People, he's been on the podcast that I have over on Patreon a few times. He very early on, their organization called for impeachment, and a petition of hundreds of thousands of people calling for impeachment of Trump. So do your job, have the battles that you need to have, fight those battles, and you may lose, but losing after fighting hard and fighting fair, I think, is better than losing because you simply were too afraid to go all in. Half measures don't win wars. Half measures don't win battles. So I actually have a copy of Art of War. And I think that every political operative, and I'd like every Democrat in Congress to read it till it's dog-eared. Because if you don't understand the fight we're in, why do you even want to be in Congress? What is the point of being there? Now, the corrupt MAGA are there to get rich, obviously. But for those who came to Congress for different reasons, yeah, maybe it was ego. I'm a congressman, great, or a senator. But while you're there, if you're going to let MAGA and Putin walk all over you, is it really worth it? What's the great cachet of being a member of Congress in this era if you're not doing everything you can to stand up to fascism, dictatorship, and the death and destruction that's resulting from it? Because that's where we are. That's where we are. So go back to the Mueller report, and Democrats were in denial and they whiffed. Now, you have to blame Mitch McConnell, blame MAGA, blame Trump. I'm talking about on our side. We are the only ones who could have stopped him. Now we're in a position where we have to rely on Republicans to stop him. And we see hints here and there that some are standing up to him. Is it enough to stop him and save our country? I don't know. It's more of an uphill battle now. But once you start figuring out what drives people, what drives, say, the pundits on TV. I talked about Ben Stein yesterday, goes on Fox News and says, he was afraid he says, I hope I get out of here alive, allowed to leave here alive for saying this on Fox News, but cutting spending isn't going to do the trick. We're going to have to raise taxes on the very wealthy. He stated the truth, and he's a conservative on Fox News. We have a few Republican senators who occasionally will do the right thing, some in the House as well. So I think it's important to pay attention to that, these little pinpricks of light, and try and figure out what prompted them to be truthful, what prompted them to do the right thing. And once we figure out if there's a common thread, then we know how to pull that thread and help unravel this dictatorship so we can save our country. But we don't do that by lying to ourselves about weaknesses on our side. We latched on to the wrong people. We latched on to people who entertained us with clever tweets. They had big followings. And if you get a big following on social media, that gets you on TV. Now, early on, a lot of people were buying Twitter followers. I don't know if you can do that anymore. But a lot of people who were nobodies and all of a sudden get hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers, almost overnight, or 1 million, within a few months. Question that as well. But that having clever tweets doesn't make you an expert. Now, on the legal stuff, people who are former federal prosecutors, worked for AGs, that sort of thing, worked in government, and at DOJ. Those are people that I would be interested in hearing from. I don't want to hear from corporate lawyers who made their millions doing mergers and acquisitions and have a famous last name, famous ex-wife. I don't want to hear from people who are political experts only because their daddy was a senator, or they had a blog, or Jeff Zucker or Roger Ailes decided that they liked how she looked in a short skirt. So poof, let's give you talking points. And we're guilty of promoting these people. Is, well, I like what they say and they make a lot of sense. Well, you don't know if they make a lot of sense if they just say things that sound good, but there's no basis, there's no foundation, no professional foundation of years and years working in that arena so that you can trust that it makes sense. So we let ourselves get bamboozled. We give too much money to grifters, the generational wealth guys who pocketed, half of the money that was supposed to go to elect Democrats. And as a result, Democrats lost seats when they were supposed to gain seats. And then the next time around, lost the House. And these guys literally have the Democratic House majority sitting in their bank accounts. And history would have turned out very differently if they didn't. Now, those are the facts. So we have to be honest with ourselves about our role in this. Did we just like people and felt like we were sitting at the cool kids table? So we're going to support the wrong people, give money to the wrong people? Do we need to be entertained? Or we don't think the person, or look at the people's credentials. I don't care if you entertain. And unless you're kind of in that arena, someone says, well, that makes sense. But wouldn't you rather something makes sense coming from the mouth of somebody who's actually done the work and has a reason to be on TV or be a person of note to listen to? So we did it to ourselves. Just as Nancy Pelosi didn't have the political will or the courage to impeach Trump for obstruction of justice in the Mueller report, Merrick Garland, whatever was going on there, he should not have lasted that long. Did we not send everybody, did Republican or Democrats not refer everybody to DOJ for indictment who lied under oath or refused to show up when they were subpoenaed to testify? Do your job. So at this point, if you're only going to do half measures and then complain when it doesn't work, then we're going to continue to fail. We're going to continue to fail. And the first thing we have to do is to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. And that can be hard. But it's delayed right now. We should have been doing it all along. But I try to do that. And if I've been bamboozled, I have to have a talk with myself in the mirror. Is there somebody that I've been listening to because, oh, well, they're entertaining when I haven't really figured out it? Well, I don't know. I tend to not do that because it's kind of a big deal for me. But wishful thinking doesn't get results. It just makes you feel better. So again, when that Facebook memory popped up from the Mueller report of just some of the things that Trump did, and I'm thinking, how could we have let it get this bad and go this far? And I, for one, have no intention of letting that happen again. So bear with me on that.